There was another and another, and it was like the woods just came alive, real weird looking, and it was moving so fast. All these critters was coming towards us. My name is Dale Boswell, and I got much like several people my age group. We kind of started back when we were kids, and watching the few programs that would come on TV, like In Search of, and my mother, she liked those in those National Enquirer magazines, and they always had cool Bigfoot stuff in there, so I kind of enjoyed that. But it wasn't until 2011 I had some neck surgery, and so that kind of put me out of the music business for a while. So I started watching a lot of YouTube. And one day I just happened to click on Bigfoot, and I was amazed at the content. So I started doing a little more research, and just kind of fell into it from there. And it wasn't until 2014 that I actually realized that those critters were in my neighborhood, were in my backyard. Like a lot of people, you just think they're out west somewhere and way out in the mountains or whatever. But that's when I first started, the research into the Bigfoot thing, and it's kind of turned into a prestigious hobby, and I really enjoy it. And it's almost an obsession. But I've been very lucky as far as collecting proof of evidence is what I call it, and I've heard some people call it that, and supposedly what proof of evidence means is you got some kind of evidence, like a footprint. That's proof of evidence of something. Of course, you don't know, you can't prove what it is, but you have some kind of physical evidence there. So I kind of use that word a lot. But to get started, it was 2014, and I had built this Bigfoot silhouette. I'm a retired graphics designer and illustrator, so I scaled up a Bigfoot silhouette on a piece of plywood, 4 by 8 foot tall. What's about the average size of your Bigfoot as reported. So I painted it black, and I stood it up against my carport, and it was facing the tree line. Well, the next morning, I had to take my daughter to the doctor. So we were pulling out of the driveway, and as we stopped at the edge of the road, she said, "Let me ask you something." She said, "Do we have polar bears in Alabama?" And I was like, "No, what do you mean?" And she said, I came out on the front porch last night and to smoke her a cigarette, and like I say, this was several years ago. And she said she looked over and saw what looked like a polar bear to her was at the edge of the tree line, and it was looking at that thing I built, what she called it. And I thought then, they say the Bigfoots are, some can be territorial. And I thought, well, maybe this thing, was peeking out to just see what that was. If maybe another booger was coming into his or her territory. But the way she described this thing, and start with, she could care less about Bigfoot. She never, had no interest in it whatsoever. But what she described, I had no doubt that she saw a Bigfoot. She pointed right out to a tree limb where its head came to, and it was at least 8 feet tall. And she said it was white, and it was very still. But she said, she said, sort of like a Labrador retriever. You know how their legs will get kind of an orange look when they are get dirty or something. She said its legs looked like that, kind of had an orange tint to it. And I thought, well, that's unusual. But this is what really got me. She said the thing is, when it moved, it was just like this. and it was gone. She said just that quick. And so she went back in the house, kind of freaked her out, you know, and like I say, she's told me about it the next day. So I couldn't wait to get back home just to look around my neighborhood, because I live out in the country, out in the woods, you know. But and so I started looking, and I started finding some tree structures and things such as that, and so I started investigating out in the woods and going out there quite a bit with my thermal imaging camera and my other cameras and things. And uh, I guess it's just uh, first time, you know, luck of the draw, because I have caught so much evidence behind my house, you know, and I almost feel guilty because there's so many researchers. They travel and they hike for miles and miles just to, you know, get a little, just to see something, you know, hopefully that was Bigfoot related. And just about everything that they're looking for was or is in my backyard at one time or another. And I filmed and I photographed some things that proved to me, no, with no doubt, that these things exist, and they're different. They're all different looking as far as I can tell. You know, I haven't seen anything that actually looks like the patty, but I had one sighting, uh, you know, with my eyes. But the rest of the things I caught on film and cameras, like most time you don't see it until you go back and research and look at your photos real good or your video. And the reason why is because these things aren't meant to be seen. You know, they don't want to be seen, so they're hiding pretty good. But if you look hard enough, you know, a lot of times you can find something that could possibly be a Bigfoot related.
Yeah, let's go back to the one sighting you had in person. Tell me where that was and kind of the details about that.
Okay, yeah, my one sighting, it was in 2018, and it was about 9:30 in the morning, and I walked out onto my back porch and had a cup of coffee, and I seen a beautiful red fox that was in the field back behind my house. And so I grabbed my camera. You know, I was going to do a National Geographic thing. I was just going to get it on film. You know, I thought it would be kind of cool. So, you know, normally when I go out into my woods, like anybody else, I'm not trying to be quiet, you know, or stealthy or anything, because, you know, I've always heard that these things know you're there, you know, regardless of how quiet you're being. But this particular time, I wanted to be quiet so I could sneak up on this fox. So it's one of the few times that I was being as stealthy as an old fella could get, you know. So I followed the fox on out a little bit, and we got to there's my property borders a big hunting lease property, you know, that's private property, and there's a fence there. And so when I got to the fence, the fox took off, you know, down to my right and was out of sight. So I put my phone back in my pocket, and I was standing there and I had my arms crossed up against the fence, and just like I say, it was a beautiful morning. And I was just looking out towards the woods, and just a few yards in front of me, you could see the sun coming down on like a sunlit trail, or a path or something. I mean, it just almost looked like something from a movie. Well, all of a sudden, I seen something come out from my left, and it went to the right. And the best way I describe as to how fast it was, or my sighting, I always say, if you take your eyes and you move them all the way to the left as far as you can, then as slow as you can go to the right. So ever how many seconds that is, that's how long I saw this thing. And I only saw a profile, and it was solid black, and it was leaning like at a 15-degree angle, but its head was tilted back, I mean, real real weird looking, and it was moving so fast and so smooth, uh, and it was amazing. And I describe it sometimes like if you watch a movie, and sometimes at the end of the movies they'll show how the movie is made, and they'll put a camera on a rail or something out in the woods so the camera will move smoothly. You would have thought there was a rail out in my backyard, and this thing was on that rail. That's how smooth it was going. And then then you've heard of being zapped, or I think that's what they call it. And I don't know if that's what happened to me, but suddenly, uh, and it didn't scare me. Maybe I was a little excited, but I wasn't. It didn't scare me at all. But all of a sudden, all the blood rushed to my face. I got dizzy, and I started getting confused for some reason. And I actually grabbed my camera because I've always documented my whole life, thing, being in the music business. So I've always tried to document my whole career and things that's going on, stuff like that. Just something I've always done. So I was able to grab my camera out of my pocket, and I really couldn't tell if it was upside down or backwards or what. And I finally got it on, and I wanted to document myself just in case I passed out or something worse. There, at least somebody could say, well, look, something happened to him. What happened? And I did, and that's a little bit of proof. You can see that how red my face was, and I was just confused. So I wasn't that far from my house, so I finally made it to my house, and walked in the door, and my wife, she's a retired nurse, and she thought I was having a heart attack or something. The way I was acting, but it was probably just an anxiety attack, because it eventually wore off. Well, that evening I had a doctor's appointment just up the road from my house. So I went to see my doctor, and you know how they take your temperature and put a little thing on your finger and take your blood pressure and stuff. Well, she took my blood pressure, and she took it 2 or 3 times. And finally, she looked at me and she said, "Mr. Boswell," said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Well, yeah, I feel pretty good." She said, "Well, your blood pressure has never been this high." And, I was thinking to myself, well, I ain't never seen a booger before either. I don't know if that's got something to do with it, but that's the only sighting I actually had with my own eyes. Even though we filmed some stuff that I wish I would have seen, and some things that were so close that I should have seen them, just within feet from me. But you hear so many researchers talking about how stealthy these things are, and they really are. I couldn't tell you what they are, but I have one film in particular that is 57 seconds long, and that particular night I was sitting at my kitchen window, and I heard the awfulest screaming of like just an animal being tore apart or something, and I could hear it through my window. So I had my camera close by and a flashlight, So and it was about 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night. So I always said to myself, if I hear something that I think is out there, the next time I go out with my flashlight, I'm gonna have my camera on first. First, have your camera on before you turn on your flashlight, and that's what any researcher should do, regardless wherever you're researching. As soon as you get out of your car, you should have your camera or some kind of recording device on, because if there's something there, it might be there only for a second to see you, and it'll be gone, and you might catch something. But anyway, I got out there and I had my camera on, and I did my flashlight like this, real fast, and just across the tree line. And I didn't see anything with the naked eyes in the viewfinder or anything, but I could still hear that creature screaming. And so anyway, I went back in the house, and apparently I had uploaded that 57-second video. And like I say, this was in 2018. So 2021, I was working on my computer trying to clear up some clutter and things like that, and videos and photos I didn't really need or any longer. And I come across this one again, and the thumbnail was solid black. So I'm like, what is that? So I clicked on it, and the first thing I heard was that animal screaming. And some people more experienced that has heard it, they said they thought it was a deer in distress. You know, I don't know much about that kind of stuff, but it sounded pretty bad, you know. But anyway, I found that video, so I pulled it up on my big screen and decided to watch it, and you know, just watch it real close. And it literally, I like to cry. The things that I saw in that film that I see with my eyes, and I have begged people to take that film and analyze it like I did. You know, I wish I could get a forensic type analyzing that does it for a living to look, you know, frame by frame like I did, and there are at least four different creatures in that one film that that you can see if you're looking. Of course, it's hard if you're not looking. You're not going to see it. You know, like I didn't see anything to start with, but again, they didn't mean to. They don't want to be seen. But this one thing that it come up in my camera, and like this my camera, it was right at the corner right here, and it looked like a little. It was almost white, but it was a green look also, but it was clearly looked like a little monkey face, but almost like a ghostly monkey face. And the first thing I thought it was a ghost. Till I got to looking, I'm like, well, you know, that thing got big old ears and nose and eyes, and it looked like a monkey and a kind of a bald head. And I think it was a juvenile, and it was just 6 or 8 feet in front of me. And the way it looked, and I know I surprised it because the way it come into my camera, and I got about 7 frames of it, and it come in and it come in and looked at me like this and went, oh Lord, and took off, you know. And I'm glad I didn't see it because I'd have probably took off in the other direction. But looking back on the film, it you can see it, and it looks like almost like a fog, a little mist kind of running around through the woods back there. And it was this thing. And I truly believe that, you know, you hear the camouflage and the cloaking thing, but I truly believe that their hair is the secret to all this. And I believe it has to do something with light. It can absorb it, or it can reflect it, or whatever. And to me, I swear this thing looked like it was absorbing the night, you know, because you see a fog around it, but it was its hair, but it looks almost foggy, you know. And you know, I've showed it to a lot of people, and you know, a lot of folks are just like, you know, pretty amazed by it as much as I was. But like I say, this is in 2021, and I analyzed that film, every frame of it, for almost a year. And being a graphics designer and illustrator, I could play with some of the programs as far as bringing out some of the detail and things like that. And one time I was looking at it, and I turned the exposure, the brightness up 100%, just to see what it looked like. And and you see the little booger right here, but there's something that comes up, and it's in front of me. You can touch it in front of me, but it's like a shadow, but it's solid because you can see it blocks out the trees, and it almost like it floats in front of me, and it had the shape of it looked like a gorilla, you know, sort of probably a Bigfoot. I mean, you can see the head, the shoulder, the arm, you can see the elbow where it was bent, and it just kind of floated off, you know, to the left. And I'm sure glad I didn't see that thing, but I know for sure it wasn't a shadow, or you know, there was no light back there. And this thing was in front of me, and if it was light, you know, it would my shadow would have appeared somewhere up in there also. But that's my 57-second monster film, I call it, and hopefully, you know, one day I'll get somebody really look at it real good, and just you know, just I want them to see what I see in it. But that's probably my best catch, and I've caught some things on photograph, just taking random photographs, and look back later, and you're looking like, well, what is that in there? And there's one in particular that almost looks just like the little bald-headed juvenile I saw, and it was in during this same time period. And it was behind a stump that I call my cannon stump, because it's like an old cannon. It's kind of like this, And it was behind the stump. You see the bald head. I think I sent you some of the pictures. Uh, but it was looking at me. It looked like, and that was so cool. But again, I don't. I'm not sure why it's so active in behind my house in my area until I actually took a Google photo, where you see your house and property, from way up from a satellite, whatever. And if you look at it, the woods surrounding my house is like an hourglass. It comes down center, then it goes back out and goes across the road in front of my house. Well, my house is right in the smallest part of that hourglass. And when you look at it, you would think, well, if I wanted to go into the woods across the road, the safest place I could go would be right at my house, because it's where the woods kind of meets the woods the closest on the other side of the road. Anywhere else, it would have to go through a big field or through a subdivision or something. And that's just my theory. That this can be so active sometimes. But like I say, it's just amazing, and I really enjoy it. And like I say, just like everyone else, I cannot prove anything to anybody. I can just show you what I've got and what I've seen, and you just judge it for yourself.
Now, what do you think these things are?
What do I think they are?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know from the way I've seen them move and act, and they're. I really don't know. I have no idea. I haven't never seen anything that looked like a patty, like the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot footage. Everything I've seen looks totally different. Um, so I couldn't tell you what they are. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to take a guess on it. But they are living, amazing beings, and they are here. They're here in our woods. They're there. There's no doubt in my mind, and a lot of other researchers, that have actually got into it. But
Sure.
again, like I say, I don't know what they are.
Do you have any structures, any of the wood structures on your place?
Yes, actually, I do. Oh man, it looks like a tornado went through my woods behind my house, as far as the trees that are down and interwoven in some other trees, and there's lots of the tree bends, and where the tree breaks where they bend them. And actually, one time I had met a guy at the store just up from my house, and he was interested in Bigfoot, and I was telling him about my place, and he was a tree surgeon, so he actually knew a lot about trees and stuff, and he wanted to come out and look. So I said, well, come on out. I want to show you the woods behind my house, and see if you can tell me what's going on out there. Because it's just behind my house. You go one way or the other, and it looks like woods are supposed to be. So he come out and was looking at some things, and some trees in particular that were broke over like 7, 8 feet tall. They were fresh trees that were broke, and one in particular I think was was done just to block my view. Because behind my house I have it's kind of like a gazebo type thing off the ground that I built, and I call it my booger hut. So I'll go back there a lot of times and sit, during the night with my cameras and watch whatever wildlife's coming through, whether it's deers or hogs or possums or raccoons and things like that. So it's just like again, I invite anybody that wants to come out my place. You know, you may not see nothing, but you know, I'd love to show. But anyway, the tree surgeon guy. Let me get back to that. I'm sorry for rambling. Uh, the tree surgeon guy, he looked at some of the stuff and it scared him. He said, I can't explain this. He said, unless a tornado this wide hit that tree, there's no way that tree should be broke like that and laying like that. One in particular, and I like I said, I documented it and filmed it, and it's one of the things I think was intentionally broken just to block my view, because where my burger hut was, this tree was a few feet from it, and I got my burger hut one night, and I was like, I can't see as good as I thought I could through there. So the next day I walked out and I seen this tree, and I'm like, well, no wonder, you know, I couldn't see. This tree is blocking my vision. But that and some smaller tree structures, and you know, where you find the X's and the asterisks looking things. I found a few of those back in there, and I've only caught some audio one time. I've never actually done any calls or anything in my backyard. I don't even knock on the trees or anything. You know, I don't want to attract too much, and I don't want to scare nothing off, because I enjoy going back there. But there's a road that's a few miles from my house, and it's called Wildman Bottom Road. So I saw it one day, and I thought, you know, people name roads for a reason. You know, usually it's whether it's a family name or what. So I thought, Wildman Bottom Road. You know, what's up with that? You know, and to this day I haven't found anybody to tell me why it was named that. But I started researching that road, and it went way back in the woods and down in the gullies, and it's a real squatchy, you know, and it's one of my favorite places just to take and ride my truck. But one in my truck, I got an old '97 4-wheel Dodge, and I'm old school, you know. It's got the mufflers, you know, the blue 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 type thing. So one night in particular, my uncle come up from Florida, and he wanted to go Bigfoot. So I said, well, let's go out to this road, this Wildman Bottom Road, and let's go out there and just see what we can see. So the only difference is I took my wife's car, you know, and it's quiet. So later on, I thought, well, maybe that had something to do with that night, because you know they didn't hear my truck rumbling up through there, and I parked in the same place by a little bridge where I normally park. So we got out, and my son-in-law Jim, he made a call, and I don't have since my operation, I don't have a falsetto, so I can't really hit no really high notes. So and he had a pretty high voice, so I told him, I said, look at here, Jim. I said, I want you to holler just as long and just as loud as you can. And he did. Well, about 20 seconds later, we heard one howl, just ooh, and thought, I've been told maybe that was a watcher. But all of a sudden, there was another and another, and it was like the woods just came alive. I mean, I've never heard so much in my life. I know there were a lot of coyotes in the mix, but I've had the audio analyzed several times by people who know a lot more about it than I do, and doing the spectrum analysis and things, and some of the researchers, the ones that I consider, you know, credible and reliable, they told me that there's possibly at least 2 Bigfoot in that audio, and maybe 1 dog man, and that was kind of weird. But it was so loud, and in person, it was getting louder and louder quick. You could tell all these critters was coming towards us. And I was taught from some researchers years ago, when you go out Bigfoot and a boogering, always park your vehicle in the exit position in case you got to get out of there real quick. And I always do. Well, that particular night, these things seemed like they were coming at us, and it scared us. And we got in the car, and I said, we need to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. But it's one of the best audios I've been told that's ever been captured as far as a possible a Bigfoot presence in there. And I think I sent that to you also, if you want to take a listen to it sometime. But that's pretty much the evidence I've called. I found one footprint that was pretty big, and I may have sent you that photo. But a lot of this stuff is on you can see on my YouTube site. Just Google my name, and you'll see my YouTube site is. And actually, I got two of them, but the one with my picture on it is one I use the most. I don't know. The other one I don't hardly use. So people are welcome to go in there and look. And I don't advertise it a whole lot. I never have been real big into subscribers and showing a lot of evidence to a lot of people, just to mainly to people I trust, and that's not going to give me too much flack. Either you like it or you don't, or but I don't want to hear people screaming that's CGI. Oh Lord, I'm like, no, 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 no. I said, to start with, if you do a little research, CGI costs from $1,200 to $1,500 a minute to produce. That's like $13 a second. I'm like, who's got the money to do something like that for something that people may see or they may not see? So and I understand people don't understand CGI, but I tell people, just research like I did. I did. That's all you got to do. Just research if you want to learn about the Bigfoot, and you're gonna see some crazy stuff out there. Some things that are not real and that are hoax, and people in costumes and things. But you're gonna also see some things that's gonna make you say, that could be.